name's Andrew. Thanks for joining us for Maribyrnong Home Coders for Maribyrnong Libraries. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to do some more arty stuff and just a little bit of coding. So, how we're going to start is we're going to find a project that's on our Maribyrnong Home Coders Scratch Studio group, and this project is called Loopy Frame by Frame Animation. So I'm just going to click on it and show you what it is. So this is a really simple project that has a tiny bit of code that lets you check your animations as you make them. So I'm just going to click the little green flag. Yeah, so it's a little frog and he's got his tongue waggling and he's winking, which is pretty simple. But we've got this code here, which is really easy, and we're going to create something from the start. I'll step you through it. But before that, I'm going to show you what this looks like inside. So it's lots of slightly different frames. Each time there's a little bit more movement, and it means that when you play them really fast, you get the frog winking and flicking his tongue, just like that. Alright, so we're going to start from the very beginning now. So we'll go to File and New. So there's our project. Now we're not going to use the little cat today. So today we're going to choose the same frog that I found earlier. So let's click on Animals. And we have our frog. So we brought our frog in. Now if we go over here to the costumes, you can see there's nothing much going on here. It's just the frog. Now I'm going to show you how to do this code, and I'll explain what it means. So we want to go to Events, and we want this code to start when we click the green flag. So I'll bring over this green flag when clicked. Bit of code here, and we want it to change costumes every time, and then we want it to stay the way it is for a tiny amount of time. So we want to use wait, which is over in the control area. And I like to use wait 0.1 seconds because it means everything goes really fast. But you can change that to whatever speed you like. You can play around with the number that's in there. The other thing that we want it to do is just keep going forever until the stop button is pressed. So that's our code. It's easy. So you can add that to any creation you want, and then all you've got to do is create different frames of the animation. So this is really fun, and if you're good at drawing on a tablet or a computer, you can create animations that you can play over and over again. You can add the little animated characters to your other creations. So you might have a game where you've got a sprite that is running along, and you can have the running legs, you can have all sorts of things. So it's really fun. So we're going to start off by duplicating our frog. So you right click if you're using a mouse or a computer, and click duplicate, and we've got an exact copy of this frog. So we're going to change the frog a little bit. So we might make the frog's eyes move around a little bit. You'll notice that the pupil and the big part of the eye are all connected. And if we want to be able to move just the pupil, we're going to have to use this button up here, which is called Ungroup. So we'll click on that, click away, and then click on the pupil. So we've got the eye separated. Let's do the same to the other eye. So we click on it, click on Ungroup up here at the top, click away, and then select the eye. Now it's probably easier if you're moving the eyes to select both of the eyes. So if you've got a keyboard, you can click the Shift button and click the left mouse button, and now you've got both of the eyes selected. And then you can move them around. So we might move them to the middle so that the frog is looking at us. And I reckon we might do something with the tongue too. So for this, I'm going to change the tool that I'm using. So there is a reshape tool. At the moment I'm using the select tool. So let's look at that. So you've got lots of little, what's called anchor points. So you can move these around and change the shape of the frog's tongue. There we go. Anchor point is not working the way it should, but anyway, this is kind of just giving you a rough idea of how to do this, because you don't want to spend 2 hours watching me create something that looks really awesome, but takes forever. Okay, so if we click back on the first frame, and then on this one, our frog is starting to move. Pretty good. And we might duplicate this frame again and just make a few more changes. So I'm going to click on both of the eyeballs using the Shift key and move them over this way. Then I'm going to adjust the tongue. Well, I'm going to make it go really big and wobbly. Well, that is an enormous tongued frog. And then if I click back on the frames, I've got that happening. How about we see what it looks like when it just loops forever. Now the frog's looking pretty small on the screen, so I'm going to change this frog to look much bigger. So I'm going to use 300. Oh yeah, and I'm going to drag him over here. Let's click the green flag. There we go. That's what our animation looks like. Amazing. I'm sure you can do much better if you spend more time drawing your frames. So that kind of works. And if you wanted some sound added to that, you could go to Sound and then the Sounds tab, and then you could choose a sound. So we might want some sort of croak. So I'm going to click on Animals, and do we have any frogs or croaks? Oh, here we go. Yep, that looks good. Let's click on that. Go over to Code, and we'll add the start sound croak, maybe just here. This is going to sound a bit weird, I think. Let's see how we go. Whoa, that's cool, but weird. So what we could do is we could add the sound croak to its own little bit of code so that it's not repeating every 0.1 seconds. So how about we create another event, and we'll start off with when flag clicked. We'll just take this start sound croak out of there. Go. So we'll go back to sound. I reckon we'll probably just beat this forever. So we'll put play sound croak until done, and then we'll go back to control and we'll get that same bit of code that we used for the frames to play our sound again and again. Let's see if that works. Yeah, there we go. So you can see sometimes it's a good idea to have separate things for separate actions. Because if we combined the sound with the frames, it was sounding pretty weird. So if something's not working as a big chunk of code, maybe you need to separate it out. So that's our frog with sound and with different frames happening. So if you just want to mess around with the frog that I'd already created in another project, then you can also do that in our Maribyrnong Home Coders studio. So let's go back to the studio. There we are, Maribyrnong Home Coders. So down here is Loopy Frame by Frame animation. And this is the one that I've spent way more time on. So we've got all of our costumes. So you can see each frame, I've changed it just a little bit, and the eye movements are a little bit slower. The tongue, I've just flipped upside down each time, I think. I'll just show you how that's done. So if I click on the tongue, what I did was I flipped it vertical, just like that. Make sure that I've got it the right way around. And then if we play it, the tongue is going crazy there. And we've got a nice wink. But if you're really good at drawing, you might want to try doing something a little bit more complex. It's really, really fun. And maybe I'll go over some of the different areas here in the costumes part of Scratch. So we had our select tool, which kind of selects big objects that are all kind of joined together. We also have the reshape tool, which lets you drag around and move the anchor points. We have paintbrush. So with paintbrush, you can choose a color. If you want to use a color that you've already got on the screen, the easiest way is to use the eyedropper tool. So by clicking on there, and if we wanted to use green, we could just click here, and our fill color will change to green. Then we can choose how big we want our brush to be. So at the moment it's on 10, which is this size. If I change it to 36, it's going to be bigger. That's going to be really hard to draw with. But if I shrink it down to say 3, you can get a nice line there. And this would be really good for drawing on a tablet. It's really hard to draw with a mouse, which is what I'm doing today. We also have the eraser tool. So if you want to get rid of chunks of your character, or if you make a mistake, that's a good way to fix it up. And if you make a mistake like erasing some of your character that you didn't mean to do, you can undo it with the undo arrow here. And then if you think, well, maybe it looked better with a bit of it missing, you can click the redo arrow. So we'll click undo there. There's also a paint bucket, so we could change the color of the frog to, well, let's change the frog to blue or bluey green. Let's make it blue. So you could make a blue frog. You could make the frog change colors throughout the animation. And you'll also notice you can keep this running while you work and see what the changes are like as you go. Let's undo the blue color. You can also type in some text. So we could do frog. And you can change the different fonts too. There's not that many options. So there's sort of, yeah, a few different ones. Not too bad. Pretty good options. Just going to undo that because we don't want the text in there. You've also got line tools. These are good for doing straight lines. So you click and drag to do those. So if you're doing something like a vehicle or a house or something like that, it can be really good to draw it with this tool. I'll just undo that. We also have shapes. So we have circles and squares. With these you have an outline colour and a fill colour. If you decide you don't want to have an outline, you can change it to no outline. Just draw an example there. You can change the colours. You can have lots of fun with that. Yes, and use the select tool to delete that one. And the square is pretty much the same as the circle, but just a different shape. So that's pretty cool. And you can zoom in and zoom out as well with these magnifying glasses. You might already be familiar with a lot of this stuff because it's like a lot of different painting programs. But this is what's called vector graphics. So it doesn't break up into little pixel squares like it does in something like Paint or Paint 3D or things like that. So now you've got everything you need to create some pretty amazing little animations. You could do heaps and heaps of different things with animated frames and sound and code that makes things move around the screen. You could make some super awesome stuff. So I hope today's video has been really helpful, and I'm really looking forward to seeing any creations that people might want to put on our Scratch studio, which is Maribyrnong Home Coders. Thanks for joining us today for Maribyrnong Libraries. My name's Andrew. Bye!